So at this point, may we ask all of our speakers to please join us on stage for some questions for our audience, from our audience. So the floor is now open for questions. Please go up to the mic and identify yourself, your question, and if possible, whom you want to address your question to. So we can have the first question, please.
Thank you to all the speakers. Excellent talks. I'm going to give a rather specific question, but to three speakers because it's kind of hard to have one that's common to all. It's on intellectual property, so I'd like to address this to Dr. Season as well as to our guest from Singapore. So the question is, in the United States, it's easy to protect one's intellectual property because you could right away apply for a provisional patent. So I'd like to know if there is an equivalent here in the Philippines, and if there is an equivalent as well in Singapore.
Short answer, in the Philippines, no.
There's none. So if there is none, then how long does it take
Singapore,
to
there's
protect one's...
something close to it in Singapore.
I'm sorry?
There's
Now,
something
let's
close
focus
to
on
a
the
provisional
Philippines
patent
first.
in Singapore,
Could
but
we
there's none in the Philippines.
Could we focus on the
unfortunately.
Philippines first?
Yeah.
So if there is not one, how long does it take to protect one's intellectual property?
Well, there's two stages. First is the formality exam and then the substantive exam. So when you're going through a regular patent, it could take several years. I think our best case is we got a patent granted in I think 3 or 4 years.
Okay, thank you. What about in
Maybe a
Singapore?
follow-up question. Is that
There is a faster process though called the utility model. So
That's what I would like to know. What is the faster model?
well, a regular patent is good for 20 years protection. A utility model is only good for 7 years, and the approval can be as fast as a year or less.
Okay, so if it's
So it
1
depends on the level of inventiveness. So we don't have a provisional, but we do have a utility model and then the regular patent.
Yeah.
So yeah, in my opinion and perspective, actually IP is a global it's a global product, Yeah. So I'm not sure of the procedural requirements, but probably the inventor here can just file a provisional in the U.S. unless there are some export control requirements. Yeah. Even for us, coming from a small country like Singapore, obviously much smaller. Yeah, we are mainly focused on filing in U.S., Europe, China, Japan, the major, major markets. We need to take a permission from the local office. If the technology was invented in Singapore, we need to get an approval. So we will just file in Singapore. We can file a Singapore provisional first. But yeah, I think, if the technology is competitive, it's a global product. Yeah, it's not only for the domestic market.
But the question is, what about in Singapore? Do you have an equivalent of a provisional patent?
Yeah, we can file provisional in Singapore.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I guess my question is that by law sa Philippines? By law, or is that a parang executive order of the IPOPHIL? Is it like a local requirement of IPOPHIL? No, I mean, where can IPOPHIL change that? Can they, in fact, introduce a provisional patent by themselves, or is it covered by a law, which means it has to go through Congress?
We haven't really taken a look. Maybe we should. So right now we're focused on, and with the prodding of the OSD, we're taking a close look at the Technology Transfer Act, the Philippines, in particular, revisions to the IRR. So that's our focus area right now. So, but maybe, we should take a look.
Okay, thank you. Another question? Yeah.
To Louis, kasi I work with TTVDO of UP. We do have also PCT capability, Joel, just to answer your question, especially for worldwide patent implications, like what our friend from Singapore is mentioning. We do have filing, and I do recommend for my private clients to do filing first and a provisional in the US prior to doing the full application. You buy yourself time. And then, actually, the Philippines is a small aspect of the whole filing if it's worldwide implications like Giselle and Toto Oliveira.
Okay.
But I think this is question, we can talk IP all day. That's what my work does for the last 15 years with my company. I'm just managing IP for my own startup. But what I like here in the whole group is really a very diverse group of speakers. But I kind of want to unify it all the way to singing and the religious aspect. Because I always look at people in terms of, our intellectual, our physical, and our spiritual. being a great part of our own development. But not to get too deep on that one, I wanted to get a quick note soundbite in terms of one, if not two, things that PAASE can do for you before you leave this room. Or what your wish that we can do for you.
Okay. Sige, akala ko papakantayin ko yung sabay eh. Pero isa-isa pala. So, we'll start with Dr. Tapang.
For Visor, for example, it's still although there are modules already that are done, your intellectual capacity to add more experiments there would be of great use, to review the experiments that are already there, and of course to propagate Visor even in your own training and also in your own hometown, as Dr. Wu was saying. If you could bring it, we could try to help bring it there, aside from the depth ed structure, your own private capacity. That's a big help already, not only to Visor as a project of PAASE, but Visor helping our students.
Thank you.
Definitely, NAST would be asking PAASE for help in terms of the review, in-depth review of the STI ecosystems, and we have many. I hope we have many. And then this is going to be the whole nationwide, local up to regional and everything in terms of the academe, the implementing agencies and so on, including CHED and so on. So everything will be reviewed. So the STI ecosystems, how to improve, how to accelerate, what are the gaps in terms of implementation. Remember that we would be coming up with a 30-year horizon. So there would be cycles of 5 to 10 cycles of review, implement, revise, whatever, and so on and so forth. So definitely we need the minds of everyone here, PAASE and everyone. Thank you. The first review round should be this year or early next year. Thank you.
I think specifically for the administered space thing, it's important to have really a group of different experts from the network of PAASE to really put flesh. No, we did an initial scoping of the region, but to really put more flesh, meaning moving forward the data, so that the implementation will be based on those data and evidences. So a firmer administered space plan, which involves minds of those who have expertise on fisheries, on engineering, agriculture, food processing, micro enterprise, micro, small, medium enterprise experts, because we're also bringing the local industries to help finding the location of the industry in this territory. We always say, put a locality and a territory to your dream. So I think building and fleshing out the data from the experts and from the scientists would be significant. Only when we have those ready, very clear design, could we really better sell it out. One, to a particular agency. Like if only NEDA can support it by just putting flesh and teeth more to the Regional Development Council, that will be great. So we need NEDA support also on this, and the DTI and the DOST to get the things on the ground fly. So, thank you.
Many of these regional databases are available, and that's the reason why we're going to do this by division. Just like, for example, the agriculture, aquaculture will take care of all the databases and information available so that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. In fact, when I was invited to speak on the National Science Fisheries Congress this year, I initiated already the advice that we have to have a review of the STI ecosystem in their area, the fisheries sector. So therefore, Muji and the rest, even the industry sectors were there, and we are now in the process of stimulating. And I agree with Dr. Ko, we cannot have a one-size-fits-all, especially in the Philippines. If you talk to the physical oceanographer, the middle part of the Philippines is different from the south and the north, and so many factors have to be considered. So the approach in the review is multidisciplinary, and the advice would be multidisciplinary. Thank you.
Can I add one short thing? We need experts from resource manager, costing. How much could an industry really grow? I think we're focused on technology, but the other science is really putting things together. How much will it cost? And then how much do we really imagine industry to bring in? In what way?
I found 15 minutes presentation of the PAASE members is very interesting. So I'm hoping next year when you have your annual meeting here, if we can do it earlier, that might be able to attract some of the scientists or engineers from Taiwan, and they will be able to benefit from that and get to know you, I think. And that's number one wish. And number two, and I'm hoping that you can send a small team. If after your next year's annual meeting, that probably 4 or 5 or 3, that you can have your extension, trip over there. Okay, like as a volunteer, but I will take care of the local thing. Okay, thank you.
So showcase your science, IP, biological insights. We'd like to meet, your postdocs, and get to know, the talent here, and look for some projects to start here in the Philippines.
Two things. That from the market side, when the universities launch ventures, it would be helpful if there are past members who might be interested to join the venture team, either in a management, short-term or long-term engagement, or at least in an advisory capacity, so that ventures can be formed, especially in areas where global experience would really make an impact in terms of having access to markets and having a global strategy for the technical and market development. The second is at an earlier stage when we talk about IP disclosure and figuring out how to do customer development with that. Again, having people with entrepreneurship, if not global industry experience, will be really helpful in advising on strategies, filling out the IP. Typically, when we get a disclosure, there will be parts of it that would be relevant to the market, but there might be holes that we might not be aware of that industry would be looking for them to be able to adopt it. So having people who can advise the team on those areas would really be helpful.
I think I gave a long shopping list. I think PAASE can help. Ultimately, from what you heard the last minute or so, it's around expertise and time. So maybe what I think we could go for the next would be a mechanism for how we do this. How do we map what we need and what PAASE members have, and when they're going to come to the Philippines? Maybe we can do that, because I think I was talking to Gobet yesterday. Like, we have a program on how to teach research management, and he volunteered. Right? So I didn't know when he's coming back next. Right? But if we can line that up, make that mechanism where it's easy for PAASE members to contribute on both sides of the Pacific, I think that would be great. The other thing I think is how do we engage the newer members? I saw we have like 50, 80 people joined. So how do we activate that? I was talking to Giovanni about this. So even the non-members, but who are our colleagues here, how can we keep this momentum going? And again, Stride can help with that if we can come up with some good ideas.
Okay, I think time is up. It's time to go to lunch, I think. We're hypoglycemic. So can you join me to thank all of our panelists for a very engaging discussion?